It started with pressure. Not the kind that builds over months. Not the kind that simmers and finally boils. No. It hit fast. Sharp. Like a hand tightening around your neck before you even realize someone had reached for you. My boyfriend looked at me, and said I was being selfish. Because I didn't want to pay his rent. Because I didn't want to give him access to the money my grandfather left me when he died. $4 million. That's what I inherited. And overnight, it became a mirror. One that reflected everything I hadn't wanted to see in the man I was living with. But let me back up. My grandfather was a quiet man. He didn't talk much about money. He wore the same watch for 40 years and never upgraded his car unless it stopped turning on. I loved him deeply, but I assumed, like many do, that most of what he had would go to my mom when he passed. I wasn't waiting for anything. I wasn't expecting anything. So when the lawyer sat me down and told me I was inheriting just over $4 million, I felt like the floor had disappeared under me. I didn't cry. I just sat there, frozen. My grandpa had loved me that much? My mom was okay with it. She told me he wanted me to live the life I dreamed of. That I'd always been the quiet one, the creative one, and he knew I'd never have the stomach for the corporate world. She wasn't bitter. She was proud. And for the first time in my adult life, I could breathe. I quit my job. Now, before you judge that, I had no debt, no student loans, no car payment. I'd been careful, frugal. My lifestyle was simple. I could easily live off $40,000 a year, probably less. I wasn't dreaming of yachts. I wasn't running off to Europe. I wanted to stay home, make art, compose music, game, keep my space clean, breathe in the quiet. It was, finally, peace. At first, my boyfriend, let's call him Mark, was excited for me. He hugged me when I told him, said, "Congratulations," kissed my forehead, told me I deserved it. But there was a flicker behind his eyes. Just a flicker. And then came the comments. "Wow, must be nice to never set an alarm again. Guess one of us has to keep the lights on. Hey, do you think maybe you could cover rent this month? Just this once." At first, it was subtle, playful even, but it didn't stay that way. Let me be clear, we've been dating for a year and a half. We moved in together 6 months ago. The rent is $200 a month. I pay $600. He pays $600. It had always been that way, fair, equal. Even now, after the inheritance, I was still paying my half. I even started paying for a housekeeper to come clean a few times a week, which, let's be honest, benefited both of us. The apartment was always spotless. The dishes got done. No more passive-aggressive arguments about vacuuming or taking out the trash. But apparently, that wasn't enough. Mark sat me down one night and said, "I think it's time we had a serious talk about finances." I nodded. Okay. Sure. He started with rent. He thought it made logical sense for me to pay the whole thing now. That since I didn't have a job anymore and he was out there working every day, the least I could do was handle the rent and utilities. Then, without missing a beat, he suggested we open a joint savings account. I asked him, "For what?" He said, "Our future. Weddings, houses, kids, all that." I sat very still. Not because I was shocked, but because I wasn't. Not entirely, and that scared me more. I told him, calmly, that I wasn't comfortable doing that I wasn't ready to merge finances, that we weren't married, that I didn't even know if I wanted to get married right now. His response, "You're being selfish." That hit me in the chest. Selfish. Because I didn't want to give a boyfriend, someone I'd been dating for a year and a half, control over a single dollar of the money my grandfather left me. The money he never even knew existed when we started dating. Mark said it was unfair for me to expect him to keep paying rent when I could afford to cover everything. He said I was hoarding the money, that I was making him feel like a second-class citizen in our own home. I asked him one question. "Would you have offered to pay the full rent if you were the one who inherited $4 million? He didn't answer. He changed the subject. Said I was trying to trap him with hypotheticals, but it wasn't hypothetical to me. It was reality. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I wasn't trying to create a power imbalance. In fact, I had been so careful not to. I still paid half. I didn't upgrade the apartment. I didn't brag. I didn't throw my wealth in his face. I didn't take us on lavish trips. I didn't buy a new car. I didn't even quit the job dramatically. I gave 2 weeks' notice, tied up loose ends, walked away quietly. But I had crossed an invisible line. I had gained something he didn't, and now he couldn't stop seeing the gap. I tried to talk to him again. I said, "I'm happy to be generous in the ways I choose to be, but I'm not comfortable being pressured into changing our entire financial dynamic overnight just because of this inheritance." He said, "So I'm just your roommate now? That's how you see me?" And that's when it hit me. That was exactly how he saw himself now. Not a partner, not a boyfriend, but a man who was living with a millionaire and still paying rent. And that fact, that bruised his ego more than anything. This wasn't about the money. It was about power. It was about identity. He wanted to feel equal, but only if I leveled down, not if he had to level up. The following week was tense. He started coming home later. He didn't touch me as much, didn't talk to me. The air between us was thick, heavy with words unsaid. I caught him looking at my laptop once while I was doing some budgeting. He asked, "So how long until you just don't need anyone at all?" It wasn't a joke. It was a fear, and maybe a projection. I wanted to tell him that I did want someone, that I wanted love, partnership, but I didn't want a dependent. I didn't want to carry someone just because I could. I wanted a teammate, not a passenger, but I didn't say it because I realized, maybe too late, that this relationship was already built on sand, that the money didn't break it. It just revealed the cracks. And now I'm sitting here staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., wondering if I should feel guilty, if I'm being heartless, if I'm letting money change me, or if I've just finally seen who I was living with. He hasn't said much in days, but the message is loud and clear. If I don't pay up, I'm the bad guy. So, am I the asshole? Here's what I think. This story isn't about money. It's about boundaries, respect, entitlement. It's about how people react when your life suddenly changes, and theirs doesn't. It's about the kind of silence that says more than shouting ever could. You can love someone deeply. You can build a life with them, split rent with them, laugh with them, cry with them, and still discover when the winds shift that what you had was conditional, that their affection was rooted in a sense of shared struggle, and the moment you're no longer struggling, they don't know how to love you anymore. To the storyteller, you're not wrong for protecting what your grandfather left you. You're not wrong for setting boundaries. And you're definitely not wrong for expecting emotional maturity from the person you live with. But this is a pivotal moment. Because now you have to ask, is this the person you want to build your future with? Not because of who they were before the money, but because of who they've become after it. And to everyone listening, let's talk. What would you do? Would you pay the rent? Would you open a joint account? Would you walk away? Drop a comment. Let's unpack this together. And if this story hit close to home, you're not alone. Keep your boundaries strong and your heart soft. You deserve both.